Hello, Fool's Blade community and fans. Today, I'm going to be discussing what the class cards' abilities are and if they're good or not. Honestly, I've been wanting to make a video on Fool's Blade for a while, and honestly, this is my way of hyping myself up for the game, and I wanted to share that with you all. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, we got a large selection here. I've looked through most of the Fool's Blade content I could find, which includes the website, videos on it, even the Kickstarter website. And I've collected all the cards that I could find. There were only a few here that wasn't able to find, such as the Forest Expansion Pack and these two classes. But everything else, I believe I have. So, let's start with the Warlock. Let's see. I made a doc on this. I'll put that in the description. It's a pros and cons list. Alright, the Warlock. Okay. So, I think the Warlock has good potential. It's going to require you to go questing a lot, though. And in some cases, that'll be good. But you'll also need to be lucky to draw curse cards. And that's the whole gimmick with this card. It is a gimmick. If you don't go questing, you won't draw curse cards. And if you don't draw curse cards, even if you do go questing, then you're kind of screwed because the class then isn't really that useful. Although, if you don't think about it like that, if you think about it more as a safety net when you do go questing, then hey, the Warlock card isn't that bad. So I'm going to put the Warlock card in solid C tier. Alright, well, next card, let's see, Monster in Disguise. Okay, this one can be annoying. So basically, when another player's in combat with a monster, you can buff that monster by 2 strength if you discard 1 card. That's it. All you gotta do is discard 1 card. And I think that's pretty powerful. And, and here's the bigger thing. You can do this multiple times per combat. So say you have like 3 cards that you don't need, right? And someone's in combat, you could just add 6 strength to the monster. Now that I think is pretty crazy, especially like in early game. Even mid to late game, a Monster in Disguise could be very, very annoying. So honestly, this is A tier, not B tier, A tier. Yeah, pretty annoying card, if you ask me. Okay, now this one, Blissfully Unaware Adventure. I saw him in the playthrough video Circle Tunes did. The first playthrough. And honestly, I think it's underrated. Well, not that any of these cards are rated yet, but here we go. Basically, it can re-roll any dice that a card or class effect has, right? So if a card calls for dice to be rolled, it can re-roll it. This class can re-roll it. Now, that's pretty useful in general. Right, if you have a bad roll, you can basically just re-roll it and hope for a better one. But here's the catch with this one. This doesn't just go for you. It can also go for other players rolling dice. Any dice that are being rolled, you can re-roll it. As long as you... Wait. Oh, no, never mind. You can just... It doesn't cost anything to re-roll. You can just re-roll it whenever you want. So, yeah, it costs nothing, and it can be pretty trolly depending how you use it. I think that's another... Ooh. I don't know, I'm teetering the A, S, and A tier. You know what? I think I'm going to put this in S tier simply because of how useful it is for no cost. It's very, very, very malleable with how you can use it in scenarios. The only thing bad I would say about it is that it's luck reliant, of course, because it's dice. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. But generally, being able to re-roll dice however you want is going to be really useful. Alright, the guy who came prepared. Now, this card in general is just going to be good because you already start out with a full sword instead of just the handle. Uh, Obviously, your damage is going to be way higher than everyone else when you start. You don't have to worry about going to the forge, at least early on, because you can just go straight into monster hunting. And no one's going to want to pick a fight with you, at least for a while. It's honestly pretty solid. It gives you a really good start. I mean, I would say the only bad thing you could say about this card is that there's no like additional abilities throughout the game. So say, you know, other people have passives or active abilities, right? You can spend cards on or whatever. This one is just you get that sword at the beginning and that's it. So I'll put this in A because of how much of a boost it gives you. But otherwise I think it's pretty good. All right. Average Joe. Okay, Average Joe. You know, he doesn't... the name makes it sound like a bad card, but I think it's pretty decent. Mainly because it can up your damage up to 4 strength, right? Okay, well, here's the thing with the Average Joe card. In order to get or to make the most use out of its class, you need to have no elemental damage on your sword at all. Because it adds 1 neutral damage for every sword part that has no elemental damage, right? So if you have a pommel that does +1 fire damage, then you're not going to get the buff that this class provides. Opposed to a handle that does like 2 neutral damage. You'll get the extra 1 damage because it's neutral. So yes, it's good. You'll have a +4 neutral damage, which damages all elemental types. But the damage does cap at 4 because there's only 4 sword parts. And there's no elemental damage that can be maximized. Or there's no opportunity to use elemental damage. Unless it's from gear or spell or something. I'm going to say B. Like, it's good, but, you know, you kind of have to sacrifice elemental damage for this. So it's decent. It's decent. I'm just going to say this now. All of this tier making, this is just based off my opinion and how I think it would actually play out. But do leave a comment down on how you think cards might turn out. Maybe if you don't agree with me, you know, tell me. Go on. I want to hear your opinions. But let's move on to the Coward. The Coward, I saw in that GIF with the box showcase. So I thought it was pretty good that I was able to get the Coward. Although it's a little scuffed. I was able to read it though. The Coward can escape combat with a monster. So the Coward's actually, in my opinion, pretty OP because 1, you can escape a monster. And after escaping, right? And this is when you choose to like go questing or monster hunting. If you choose monster hunting and you find a monster you don't want to fight, you can discard 2 cards, any cards, to escape the combat, and then you can still go questing or visit the forge, right? So basically, you can just escape. You don't have to get the lose effect, right? Because that's the only reason you would use this ability is if you were gonna lose. I think it's pretty good, especially for like the higher leveled, like the cavern monsters, right? Those guys would definitely be something you want to run from. So only spending 2 cards to escape it, and you can still go questing or visit the forge afterwards. That's pretty OP. I think especially in late game. So, man, but it only is viable in monster hunting, which is how you get loot. Ooh, it's either an A or S tier, definitely, but I don't know. I'll put an A for now. But if like other cards make me think otherwise, like compared to it, I'll definitely put it higher. Right. Okay. So we got the Psychic. Ooh, the Psychic. You know, I almost missed the Psychic. The Psychic and the Elementalist. I almost didn't put them in the tier list because I forgot about them. Okay. Well, the Psychic. Right. Okay. So it can look at the top 2 cards in any deck. Like when you're drawing or when you want to draw, you can look at the cards, the top 2 cards, and then you can arrange them in any order you'd like. Now, of course, you have to discard 1 card. You have to discard a card in order to activate the ability. But I'd say that's a pretty, I'd say that's pretty worth it. Because 1, it has trolling capabilities. I'm not gonna lie. Say you're looking at the questing cards and there's a curse in there, right? That you would have drawn otherwise. You can just swap that out. You can swap it around for the other card below it. And then boom, the next person who goes questing draws a curse. I think it's pretty good. Yeah, definitely viable in normal gameplay. It'll be used most of the time. So I'd say that's solid S tier. I mean, you're going to be using that all the time. So, although, actually, I'll put an S tier just because of how viable it is. Okay, alright. Moving on to the Dumpster Diver. Dumpster Diver, he's pretty... Okay, well, we've seen him in, like, a lot of the promotion for this game. Right? I think he even has, like, a little... what's it called? Like not a YouTube's, but something like that. That Circle Tunes made. So basically, once per turn, while you're at the tavern, you can discard 2 tavern cards to look at the top 3 cards from the quest, from questing, from the forge, or from the quest and forge trash piles, right? I think you can take one of the cards, right? So say you discard 2 tavern cards and you look in the questing trash pile, and you can take 1 from the the top 3 trash cards in the trash pile. You can take 1. God, I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty alright, I guess. If there's a specific card that you wanted and you just you wanted to go get it, you could definitely go get it, right? You could spend 2 tavern cards and do that. I mean, since you only get 1 tavern card per turn, I feel like it's expensive in a way. Only because you're getting a card that someone has already used, or that you already used. Although if it's a pretty OP card, then I guess it makes sense. I don't know. It's kind of situational. I'll put it in A. Mainly because it's decent. I don't know. This might be a hot take. I'm putting it in B. It's good, but like I don't know how much you're really gonna use it compared to what the other cards can do for you. Oh, Sketchy Salesman. Okay, I like the Sketchy Salesman mainly because of how annoying he can be. Alright, so the bad thing is, in order to use his ability, which is stealing someone's gear card, you have to give them a loot card in exchange, right? So, during your turn, while you're in the tavern, you can just take someone's gear card and then give them a loot card. You're like, oh, sorry, buddy. Thanks for the gear, though. So, yes, this is definitely a viable card. If you have a loot card that's like 1 value, 2, maybe 3, if you really are desperate. But yeah, gear can definitely be a game changer. And being able to just take gear from other people is pretty good. Although you do give them a loot card, so there is a trade-off, of course. But I'd still say it's worth it, because you can still give any value loot card. You don't have to give them an 8 value loot card and say, oh, thanks for the useless gear, buddy. No, you can screw them over. So this is definitely A tier. The only reason I'm not putting it in S is because you still have to give a loot card away. So that's obviously sad, but yeah, that's good. Okay, guy with the gun. Ooh, okay. So, even with what his name is, a guy with the gun isn't actually that good, in my opinion. Sure, he can add 2 strength during, I think it's just normal combat. Yeah, once per combat, he can add strength to your weapon, right? 2 strength, which is pretty good. You can only do it once per combat, though. I kind of think of it as like the opposite of the monster in disguise. Instead of adding 2 strength to a monster, you add 2 strength to yourself, right? And you can do it in any combat, right? It's not just with a monster. You can do it when you're fighting a player, when you're fighting a boss. So that's like the main distinction between monster in disguise and guy with a gun. Another major thing is that the guy with the gun, while it is free to use his ability, you can only use it 6 times in a game, right? Oh, excuse me. Ugh. You can only use it 6 times in a game, but that kind of makes it pointless once you use it 6 times. You got to be really strategic when you do use it. You either got to use it early game to get ahead, or late game to help turn the tides, right? If you're in a sticky situation. I just don't think it's worth it to use this class, especially when you can only use it 6 times, and I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's just, what do you do after 6 uses? It's kind of pointless. You don't even get a passive. I'll put it in B because, yes, there is early game potential, possible mid game potential, but otherwise, I don't think it's making it A or above. Right. Okay. The Elementalist. Now this guy, he's kind of interesting because he can increase your damage by 3 total. He's similar to the average Joe. He's like the opposite of the average Joe, because average Joe, he increases your damage for every sword piece that doesn't have an elemental damage. But the Elementalist increases your damage for every 1 elemental type you have on your sword. So, of course, there's only 3 elements, so the max damage it can increase to is 3, right? 1 fire, 1 plant, and 1 water. So, obviously, it's going to add a good damage boost, and you're definitely going to be safe from elemental monsters, right? If you're taking full advantage of this class ability, you should be fine from elemental monsters. So it's definitely good, but it's kind of having the same issue that the average Joe had. It can only increase your damage by 3 total. And that's pretty much it. That's like the highlight. So it's going in B tier, right? Same. I'll put it next to the average Joe just to show it. The same issue, basically. Oh, right, okay. So now we're moving on to special characters, right? Either from the YouTube class. Oh, sorry, this is a copy of the Dumpster Diver. But no, YouTube class here, right? And then you get the Kickstarter exclusive, right? So if you made it in for the Kickstarter, these are cards you will see when you get the game, right? So here we go. The Crash Landed Space Marine. Sorry. I got a screenshot that covered its name, so I'm sorry about that. Right, so when you lose in combat to a monster, your next combat, your strength will be increased by 3. Now, that's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. The +3 damage is gonna be helpful. Really helpful early game, but I'm not sure how viable it's gonna be mid to late game. Only because the I'm blanking on what the monster decks are called. You got the second and third level monsters. You're not going to be wanting to lose to them because the loose effects are going to be probably detrimental, and you're not going to want to be facing those, right? And even if you do that, the +3 damage might not even matter in the next fight, because who knows, you might fight a really strong monster. Also, this class, it's very, I feel like it's situational, right? Because in order for it to be useful, you need to lose to a monster, and then you need to fight another monster that you can win against. It's just a whole thing. I think it's okay, but I don't think it's really that good at all. Yeah, no, it's C tier. I'm not gonna lie. It's Kickstarter exclusive, but it's C tier. You know, I don't think it should be hyped up that much. Okay. Right. So let's move on to the YouTuber class. Now, some of these cards, in my opinion, are actually really good. The other ones are just trash. Here we go. The one who always gets lost. Ooh, okay. This one, I like this card a lot. Okay, so you start the game with 2 extra quest cards, right? So hopefully you don't get a curse or something, but who knows? But if you don't get a curse, it's pretty OP that you start off with 2 extra cards among everyone else. And then there's a potential to get 3 quest cards when you go questing in normal gameplay, right? So say you go questing, you have to roll a die. And if you roll 1 to 5, you can... No, sorry, okay, I'll save that for last. If you roll 6 to 14 on the D20 that you roll, you just draw 2 quest cards like normal. But if you roll a 15 to 20, then you draw 3 quest cards, right? So you'll be swimming in quest cards, right? But the only downside to this card is if you roll a 1 to 5, then the other players can agree to send you to visit the forge or go monster hunting. And even that isn't that bad. That's not that bad of a con, if you ask me. Mainly because, I don't know, monster hunting isn't that bad. You can always just pick the forced monsters. And if they send you to the forge, oh no, I get to choose a new sword part, right? So it's really not that bad of a class. It's actually pretty good. The only bad thing I would say is that it's really questing specific. There's no combat extra thing. There's no passive. It's just the quest card thing, right? Do you know what I mean? Like there's no bonus damage you get. There's no other thing. It's just the quest cards. The thing with the guy who always gets lost, the one who always gets lost, it's specific to questing, and that's fine, because honestly, quest cards, they can give you, action cards? Is that what they were called? Action cards. Gear, that's huge. You can get gear. Honestly, there's plenty of things you can get. Also, there's curses, so you're bound to run into curses, which is pretty bad. But yes, it's pretty good overall. So I'd say, especially early game, I'd say A tier. I think that's definitely A tier worthy. Okay, moving on. The cheater. Okay, the cheater. Now, this adds like a whole extra thing to it. Like, there's a whole side game. Like, you're playing your own little mini game while you play Fool's Blade if you choose this class. Okay? So first off, let's just get this out of the way. You start with a random loot card. So that's good. If you get, say you get like one of the sword parts, that would be pretty OP. Or not OP, but it would be really helpful. And then for the rest of the game, once per turn, you may attempt to draw one loot card and add it to your stash. If you're caught, I'm reading from the card here. If you're caught in the act or noticed by other players, you must put the loot card back at the bottom of the deck. Now, this card is literally situational. It depends where you're playing the game and who you're playing with. If you're playing with one other person, like it's just you and this guy and you choose the cheater class, it's very likely that he's gonna be, or they're gonna be eyeing your every move because they'll be hyper. Okay, here's the other issue with this card. If you choose it, other people are gonna be hyper aware that you're gonna try and steal loot cards from the deck. So they're always gonna be watching. But it helps when you have a larger group to play with, because then people get distracted easier. They're not going to be focused solely on you. They're going to be talking. They're going to be laughing. And during your turn, if you can make people forget for a bit, you can just steal a loot card. And there you go. I mean, it all matters on positioning. I'd say if you're closer to the loot deck, then maybe you go for the cheater. It's just like, I don't know. It's really situational. And for that, I'm putting it in C tier. Like the potential is great, but unless you have a larger group to play with, I don't think you're getting anywhere. Okay, Village Menace. Oh, this is like the troll of troll cards, you know? I think that was the point with this card, you know, being the Village Menace. Here, let me read the description. When you leave the tavern, you may discard 2 tavern cards to choose 2 destinations, right? You can only choose the Forge or Questing. Okay, no, you can only choose 2 of these 3 destinations. The Forge, Questing, or Monster Hunting, right? Reveal cards from those decks at the same time, and then you can select one of the reveal cards to go back to the bottom of the deck. And you have to spend 2 tavern cards to do this, right? So it's an ability. It's an ability you have to activate. It's just bad. It's just bad. Okay, look. So the whole point of the card is that if there's some OP card in one of the decks you chose and you want to send it to the bottom, you can make everyone upset, right? And you can make it so someone else doesn't get that card. Like, I can see it being viable if someone is almost complete, like their sword almost has all of the set pieces, right? And you use this ability and you look at the Questing and the Forge and you see the last set piece that the guy needs, right? On top of the Forge. You can send that to the bottom of the deck and screw them over forever, right? So they won't get that set bonus. But that is so situational. Like, the chances of you using this ability right when that card is at the top is just, there's so many factors that play into this, and I just do not think it is at all viable, especially for 2 tavern cards. Every time you do this, maybe if it was 1 tavern card or there's some other payment, I don't know. Maybe not 1 tavern card, because then you'd be an actual menace. I don't know. I just think it needs like a rework or something. It's not that crazy. Okay, all right. Mushroom-mancer, I get along better with. It's pretty solid. Every time you get a plant monster in your stash, you can add 2 plant strength to your character. This is good. This is actually really good, right? You're definitely going to be wanting to spend your time fighting monsters, right? Once you get strong enough, just keep fighting monsters in hopes that you get a plant monster, right? Because once you get like 2, 3 3 or more plant monsters in your stash. Oh my god. 4 plus 4 plant strength plus 6 plus 8 plus 10. This is definitely one of the easiest ways to get strong in the game, I'd say. But there are other factors that play into it. One, you have to be lucky to fight plant monsters. Then you have to beat the plant monsters, and you have to keep finding them. Right? So, and also, the plant strength is completely useless if you're fighting, what? Fire. If you're fighting any fire monsters, or fire bosses for that matter too, it's useless. That plus 10 plant strength that you got is useless against the fire monsters. So I'm putting this in A. I'm putting a lot of these in A. I mean, because a lot of these are good, but it's just, I don't know. Really good potential. Really good. The potential for high damage is there. It's just not good against fire monsters, and it is kind of luck reliant with drawing. It's gimmicky. Is it B? No, it's not in B level. It's A. It's A. Okay, Demonic Puppet Master. I forgot if I like this one or not. When another player leaves the tavern and chooses, you may. Oh, okay, no, okay. Okay, so Demonic Puppet Master. Basically, its thing is that you can choose where a person goes, right? You can choose whether they go to the forge, go questing, or go monster hunting. All right. Now that in theory sounds pretty good, right? You can force someone to go wherever you want them to go. But the thing is, it costs 3 tavern cards. 3 tavern cards to activate this ability. Now, the only way I could see this being good, or like a couple ways I could see this being good, is if you knew there was some curse card in the questing and you made them go there. Or, you know, if you saw the boss, like you saw or not a boss, you saw a really high level monster or strong monster in one of the monster hunting decks, and you sent them there. But even if that were the case, even if there was a strong monster, they still have to choose the right monster deck to fight. It's really, I've said this a few times, it's very situational. Like, it's not, it's just not really, okay. A lot of the YouTuber cards are meant to be, like, sabotaging people or, like, cheating the game. The only one that isn't is this one. Let Me Explain Studios. Studios' card. Okay, yeah. No, this one's is it? I think it's D tier. I think sadly the two of the YouTuber cards are D tier, simply because of how expensive it is to activate the demonic puppet master's ability. It's just I don't see why you would do that. Just to say, it doesn't feel like a good payoff, right? Okay, now I included these 4 because I don't know, just cause, right? These currently are the unknown cards, right? Witch Hunt. These 2 are from the expansion, and these 2 are from the base game, but I don't believe we've seen them. Like, we haven't seen the description, so we don't really know if they're good or not, or what they do anyway. But I'm very excited to find out what they do. So yeah, this is my tier list. This is how I think the things will turn out, right? From most. Here, hold up, give me a sec. Let me think about this. Like most useful in game to least useful. Like, you're gonna get the least use out of these cards. rather than these cards up here, which you're going to get a lot of use out of. So yeah, this is the tier list, and I had fun with this. I had fun making this tier list. I also made a doc I mentioned earlier. I'll put that in the link below. I did. I had a lot of fun. And if you guys could give me ideas on what to make next, right? Maybe discussing other cards or strategies, whatever. Please leave comments. Give me ideas. I need them. Yeah, this has been fun. So, hopefully, I'll see you guys in the next video. Full split out! Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you would like to join the unofficial Discord server, the link will be in the description. Alongside that, if you're a newbie, the Fool's Blade official website will also be down there, so take a look. See you guys.